In the heart of a sprawling metropolis, the lecture hall buzzed with anticipation. Rows of eager students filled the seats, their eyes glistening with curiosity as they awaited the arrival of Lucas. He was a passionate scientist, renowned for his groundbreaking research on human emotions and their significance in the broader realm of scientific exploration. Lucas stood backstage, pacing nervously, his mind racing with thoughts about the lecture he was about to deliver. Despite the accolades and recognition he received in his professional life, there lingered an emptiness within him, a void that no amount of academic achievement could fill. As he stepped onto the stage, the bright lights illuminated his determined expression. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady yet warm. "Today, we delve into the fascinating world of human emotions, those complex feelings that drive our decisions, our relationships, and ultimately, our understanding of the universe." His enthusiasm was palpable, igniting a spark in the audience. He passionately explained the intricate interplay between emotions and scientific inquiry, weaving anecdotes from his own life into the narrative. "Emotions are not just feelings, they are data points," he continued, gesturing animatedly. "They guide our behavior, influence our choices, and shape our interactions. In the grand tapestry of the cosmos, understanding emotions is essential to unlocking the mysteries of existence." The students nodded, captivated by his fervor, yet Lucas couldn't shake the nagging sense of loneliness that crept into his thoughts. As he scanned the audience, he wondered if anyone truly understood the depths of his passion, not just for science, but for connection. Meanwhile, light years away on a distant planet, Zira observed Earth through the prism of her people's advanced technologies. She was unlike anyone else in her civilization, with iridescent skin that shimmered in hues of blue and green. Zira possessed empathic abilities that allowed her to sense the emotions of others, an extraordinary gift that made her acutely aware of the emotional landscape of her world. Her people had spent centuries watching Earth, fascinated by the complexity of human emotions, which contrasted sharply with their own serene existence. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Zira volunteered to embark on a journey to Earth. "I must understand what it means to feel," she declared to her peers, her voice brimming with determination. They had always admired humans from afar, but Zira yearned to experience their emotions firsthand, to grasp the essence of love, fear, and joy that colored their lives. "If I can uncover the depth of their feelings, perhaps it can enrich our own understanding of existence," she mused, her heart racing at the thought of her imminent adventure. As her spacecraft glided through the starry expanse, Zira felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The blue planet loomed closer, vibrant and alive, its swirling clouds beckoning her. With a deep breath, she initiated the landing sequence, her heart pounding as she descended into the atmosphere. The ship landed discreetly in a secluded area of the city, hidden behind a cluster of trees. Stepping out of the spacecraft, Zira was immediately engulfed by the cacophony of sounds and sights of Earth. The air was thick with the scent of unfamiliar foods and the distant echo of laughter. As she ventured further, the emotional turmoil of the humans around her washed over her like a tidal wave. She felt the joy of a child, the sorrow of a couple parting ways, and the anxiety of a businessperson rushing to a meeting. Each emotion resonated within her, a stark contrast to the tranquil feelings of her home world. Zira paused, overwhelmed yet exhilarated. "What a vibrant tapestry of existence," she whispered to herself, her eyes wide with wonder. She sensed the beauty and chaos of human life interwoven, each thread a unique experience. "I must learn more," she resolved, her heart racing with the thrill of discovery. In that moment, Zira felt a profound connection to the Earth, unaware that her path would soon intertwine with that of a lonely scientist named Lucas, setting the stage for an extraordinary journey filled with love, fear, and the unknown. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange hue over the university campus as Lucas adjusted his glasses and stared at the readouts on his monitor. An unusual energy signature had just pinged on his radar, a blip that pulsed with a rhythm he had never encountered before. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, he grabbed his jacket and stepped out of his lab, the bustling campus alive with students and faculty rushing about their daily routines. As he made his way across the quad, Lucas felt a strange pull towards the source of the signal, an instinctive urge that urged him to investigate. Little did he know that just a few yards away, Zira was weaving through the crowd, her iridescent skin shimmering subtly in the fading light. She marveled at the human emotions swirling around her, a cacophony of joy, sadness, longing, and laughter that filled her senses. "Fascinating," she murmured to herself, her voice barely above a whisper. Just then, she spotted the university building ahead, its glass walls reflecting the vibrant colors of the sunset. With a mix of trepidation and excitement, she entered the building, drawn to the very same energy Lucas was pursuing. In one of the labs, Lucas was examining the readings on his device, his brow furrowing in concentration. The energy signature danced erratically, unlike anything he had ever seen. "What are you?" he muttered, tapping the screen in frustration. As he turned to grab a notebook, he felt a sudden chill in the air, an inexplicable shift that made the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. At that moment, Zira stepped into the lab, her presence commanding yet delicate. The sight of her, her vibrant skin and otherworldly grace, stopped Lucas in his tracks. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice a mix of wonder and confusion. "I'm Zira," she replied, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "I've come to learn about your world, about your emotions." Lucas blinked, grappling with the surrealness of the encounter. "Emotions? You mean, you're not from around here?" "No," she said softly, her voice wrapping around him like a warm embrace. "I come from a distant place, where emotions are not as complex as they are here. I wanted to understand." As they spoke, Zira's empathic abilities began to awaken, and she inadvertently tapped into Lucas's feelings. A wave of loneliness washed over her, and she could sense the depth of his solitude. You feel alone," she observed, her tone gentle. Lucas's heart raced. "I suppose I am," he admitted, the vulnerability in his voice surprising him. "Science is my passion, but I've always felt something missing, like there's a connection I can't quite grasp." Zira stepped closer, their eyes locking in a moment that felt both electric and timeless. "Perhaps connection is what we both seek," she suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. Before Lucas could respond, the door swung open abruptly, and two security personnel entered, their expressions stern. "What's going on here?" one of them barked, eyeing Zira with suspicion. Lucas instinctively moved closer to Zira, his protective instincts kicking in. "She's with me," he said firmly, his heart pounding. "She's a new student. Just exploring." The guards exchanged skeptical glances, their brows furrowing. "A new student? We need to see some identification." Zira remained calm, her heart racing at the sudden hostility. "I don't have identification," she said, her voice steady. "I just arrived, and I'm trying to understand your world." Lucas felt a surge of determination. "She means no harm." "She's not a threat," he insisted, standing his ground. "Step aside, sir," one of the guards warned, their hands hovering near their holsters. Lucas's mind raced, contemplating the implications of this confrontation. He could sense Zira's anxiety, and it stirred something deep within him, a need to protect her, to shield her from the fears of a world that would not understand her. "Please, just give her a chance," Lucas urged, desperation creeping into his voice. "She's here to learn about us, about emotions, something we could all use more of." The guards hesitated, glancing at each other as the tension in the room thickened. Lucas could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, the stakes rising with each passing second. Would he risk everything to defend a being he had only just met? Yet, in that moment, something profound began to blossom between them, a connection that felt as ancient as the stars and as fragile as the air they breathed. Lucas led Zira up the staircase to the rooftop garden, the city sprawling beneath them like a living tapestry. The vibrant hues of dusk painted the sky, casting a warm glow over the greenery that flourished in this hidden sanctuary. As they emerged onto the rooftop, the sounds of the bustling metropolis faded, replaced by a gentle breeze that rustled the leaves and carried the sweet aroma of blooming flowers. "Wow," Zira breathed, her eyes wide with wonder as she took in the view. The lights of the city began to twinkle like stars on earth, and for a moment she felt as if she were standing at the edge of the universe. "It's beautiful here." Lucas smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "It's one of my favorite places. A little escape from all the noise below. I come here to think, and to feel." He turned to her, the weight of his loneliness lifted just a little in her presence. "What about you? What do you feel?" Zira paused, her iridescent skin shimmering in the fading light. "I feel intrigued. Your world is so full of emotions. It's overwhelming, but also exhilarating." She stepped closer to him, her gaze searching his face. "Tell me, Lucas, what is it like to love?" The question hung in the air, and Lucas felt a flush of warmth creeping up his neck. "Love. It's complicated. It can bring happiness, but also pain. It's a risk, you know. He chuckled softly, trying to deflect the weight of the subject. Most of my colleagues would say it's an evolutionary mechanism, something to ensure our species' survival. Zira tilted her head, an enigmatic smile playing on her lips. And what do you believe? Is it just biology? Lucas hesitated, contemplating her question. I think there's more to it. It's about connection, understanding, vulnerability. It's what makes us human. His voice softened as he added, but I've never really experienced it fully. Not like I want to. Zira stepped closer, her gaze locked onto his, and in that moment, the world around them faded away. What if I could help you understand? Her tone was sincere, her empathic abilities flaring to life. She reached out, her fingers brushing against his arm, sending a ripple of warmth through him. Help me, Lucas echoed, his heart racing. He could feel the electricity between them, a connection that transcended words. How could you possibly? I can feel your emotions, Lucas, she interrupted gently, her own eyes reflecting a myriad of colors. I sense your hopes, your fears, your loneliness. You want more than what you have. I can help you explore that. Lucas swallowed hard, his pulse quickening. What if it's too much? What if I can't handle it? Zira smiled softly, a mixture of mischief and kindness dancing in her eyes. Sometimes, the things that scare us the most are the ones worth pursuing. Are you afraid of me, Lucas? He chuckled nervously, shaking his head. No, not you. It's everything else, the implications of what you are, what this means for us. Then let's not worry about what this means just yet, Zira suggested, her voice soothing. Let's just enjoy the moment. With that, she leaned closer, their foreheads nearly touching, her presence enveloping him like a warm embrace. Lucas could feel her heartbeat, steady and calm, and he found solace in it. He hadn't realized how much he had craved connection until this moment. As they stood in silence, laughter bubbled up within them, breaking the tension. So, tell me about the stars, Zira prompted, stepping back slightly, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. You humans seem to have an obsession with them. Lucas chuckled, relieved to shift the conversation. Oh, where do I start? Stars are the ultimate mystery. They're massive balls of burning gas, yet we look at them and see hope, dreams, possibilities. Zira listened intently, captivated by his passion. What dreams do you see when you look at the stars? He pondered for a moment, his gaze drifting to the sky. I see a universe full of potential, where we're not alone. I imagine exploring distant worlds, finding new forms of life, understanding what binds us all together. Zira's heart swelled at his words, but a flicker of doubt crossed her mind. She still held the weight of her true purpose, the mission that brought her to Earth. As much as she wanted to share everything with Lucas, she feared the consequences of revealing her intent. Those dreams are beautiful, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. But what if the reality is different than the dream? Then we adapt, Lucas replied, turning to face her fully. That's what we do as humans. We face the unknown, no matter how daunting it may seem. Zira smiled, her heart aching with the tenderness of the moment. But as they stood there, lost in each other's eyes, a shadow loomed over them, unseen yet palpable, a reminder that their connection was fraught with tension and danger. In the distance, the faint sound of sirens echoed through the skyline, a harbinger of the challenges they would soon face. Lucas and Zira sat at a small table in the corner of a quaint cafe, the warm aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the sweet scent of pastries. Sunlight filtered through the windows, casting a golden hue over the scene, creating a cozy ambience that contrasted sharply with the turmoil that loomed over them. Zira, her iridescent skin shimmering in the light, stared at the array of food laid out before her, a curious expression on her face. It was her first time experiencing human cuisine, and Lucas couldn't help but chuckle at her bewilderment. Okay, so what do I do? Zira asked, her voice laced with a mixture of excitement and uncertainty as she picked up a croissant. Just take a bite. It's delicious, I promise, Lucas encouraged, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Tentatively, Zira took a bite, her eyes widening in surprise as the buttery pastry melted in her mouth. This is extraordinary, she exclaimed, her delight infectious. How can something so simple provoke such joy? Lucas smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. It's the little things that count, right? Food, laughter, connection. They're all part of what makes us human. Zira nodded, her empathic abilities flaring as she sensed the complexity of emotions swirling within Lucas. Beneath the surface of his cheerful demeanor, she felt an undercurrent of fear. "Lucas," she said softly, her tone turning serious, "there's something you're afraid of." "What is it?" He hesitated, the lightness of the moment fading as he met her gaze. "It's complicated," he finally admitted, his voice low. "I've never felt this way about anyone before. You're different, Zira. But what if you have to leave? What if they take you away from me?" Zira's heart ached as she absorbed his emotions, her own fear mirroring his. "I didn't come here to cause you pain. I want to understand love, not just for myself, but for you too." She leaned closer, her eyes locking onto his. "I promise, I will do everything in my power to stay." Just as the tension between them began to ease, the cafe door swung open with a loud bang. Lucas's heart dropped as he saw armed agents flood into the room, their expressions grim and determined. "Get down!" he shouted, instinctively reaching for Zira's hand. Panic erupted among the patrons, chairs scraping against the floor as people scrambled for the exits. Zira, however, stood frozen momentarily, her senses heightened. She could feel the agents' intentions swirling around them like a storm, hostility, fear, and a determination to apprehend her. "Lucas, now," he urged, pulling her toward the back exit. But as they dashed through the cafe, the agent spotted them. "Stop! You're under arrest!" one of them shouted, and Lucas felt a surge of adrenaline as he pushed Zira ahead of him. In a split second, Zira's empathic powers surged within her. "Lucas, trust me," she called out, her voice steady amidst the chaos. She extended her hands, feeling the energy flow through her. As the agents closed in, she unleashed a wave of emotion, projecting a deep sense of calm and confusion. The agents faltered, their aggression momentarily subdued. "Let's go," Lucas urged, pulling Zira through the door just as the agents regained their composure, their shouts echoing behind them. They sprinted down the alley, the sounds of pursuit fading as they turned a corner. Breathless, they leaned against the cool brick wall, hearts racing. Zira looked at Lucas, her eyes wide with realization. "This is far more dangerous than I anticipated," she said, her voice trembling. Lucas nodded, his mind racing. "We need to find a safe place to regroup and figure out what to do next." As they made their way to Lucas's apartment, an unsettling silence enveloped them. The thrill of their escape was overshadowed by the gravity of their situation. Once inside, Lucas paced the room, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "They're not going to stop. They see you as a threat, and I can't let them take you." Zira stood by the window, her gaze distant as she processed everything. "I came to understand love and connection, but now it feels like our emotions have put us in danger." She turned to him, her eyes glistening with sincerity. "But I won't run away, Lucas. I need to know what love feels like, and you're the only one who can teach me." Lucas stepped closer, his heart pounding in his chest. "I've never felt this way about anyone, Zira. You make me feel alive, but I'm scared. Scared of losing you before I even get the chance to really know you." Zira took a step forward, reaching for his hand. "You won't lose me. I promise." Her voice was soft, yet firm, as if she were weaving a connection between their souls. In that moment, the world outside faded away. Lucas leaned in, drawn to her warmth, his lips brushing against hers in a tentative kiss. It was electric, a fusion of fear and longing, and as they pulled away, the reality of their situation crashed back upon them. The danger was far from over, but in that brief encounter, they found solace in each other, a fragile bond amidst the chaos that threatened to tear them apart. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow across the city, tensions within Lucas's apartment were palpable. Zira stood by the window, her iridescent skin shimmering in the fading light, the weight of impending danger heavy in the air. Lucas paced, his brow furrowed in deep thought. The alert triggered by Zira's alien technology had sent shockwaves through government channels, and the urgency of the situation was beginning to dawn on him. "We have to act fast," Lucas said, stopping momentarily to meet Zira's gaze. The vulnerability in her eyes tugged at his heart. "If they find you, they won't hesitate to treat you like a threat. We need a plan." Zira turned from the window, feeling the intensity of his concern wash over her through their bond. "I didn't mean to cause such chaos," she confessed, her voice laced with remorse. My technology was only meant to observe, to help me understand your world. I never intended to bring danger to you." Lucas stepped closer, his hand reaching out to cradle her face. "It's not your fault. You're not a threat to anyone. You're curious, and that curiosity is what drew me to you. But we need to show them that you come in peace." Her emerald eyes sparkled with both admiration and fear. "What do you suggest we do?" "We'll confront them," Lucas declared, determination hardening his features. "We'll go to the government and present your true purpose. If they see who you are, they might reconsider their approach." Zira hesitated, her empathic abilities faltering slightly in the wake of such a bold move. "But my powers are waning. I can't guarantee that I'll be able to defend myself, let alone convince them of my intentions." "Then we'll do it together," Lucas insisted, a fierce protectiveness igniting within him. "I won't let them hurt you." As they formulated their plan, Zira's heart swelled with a mixture of apprehension and affection for the human before her. It was in moments like these that she felt the emotional spectrum of humanity, their fears and hopes intertwined, bubbling to the surface. "You're willing to risk so much for me," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucas chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. "What can I say? I'm a scientist, and you're my most intriguing experiment." He winked, but the gravity of their situation hung heavily between them. Later that evening, they made their way to a public demonstration area, where officials had gathered to discuss the implications of Zira's presence. The crowd buzzed with chatter, a mixture of excitement and anxiety as news of the alien visitor spread. Lucas held Zira's hand tightly, grounding her as they stepped into the limelight. "Ladies and gentlemen," Lucas began, his voice steady despite the rapid beating of his heart. "We stand here today not to discuss a threat, but to introduce you to a being of peace and understanding." He gestured to Zira, who stepped forward, her presence commanding the attention of the crowd. Zira took a deep breath, attempting to connect with the emotions of those around her. "I come to you from a distant world, driven by a desire to understand the complexities of love and connection," she said, her voice clear and melodic. "I wish to learn from you, to share in your experiences, not to conquer or harm." As she spoke, Lucas felt a swell of hope. But then, a chilling realization struck him. He noticed the glint of badges and the shifting of agents among the crowd, their eyes trained on Zira. The government officials were about to act. He turned to Zira, the urgency crashing over him like a tidal wave. "Get back!" he shouted, pushing her behind him just as the agents surged forward, weapons drawn. "They're coming!" In that moment, Zira's empathic abilities flared, but her strength was fading. "Lucas, she began, but he interrupted her. "Stay behind me!" He pushed through the throng of bodies, desperate to protect her. But they were outnumbered, and Lucas could see the fear etched on Zira's face. As he prepared to shield her from incoming agents, a surge of adrenaline coursed through him. "They won't take you!" he shouted defiantly. Just then, in a desperate act to ensure Zira's safety, Lucas lunged forward, drawing the attention of the agents. "You want her? You'll have to go through me first." The government officials hesitated, taken aback by his fierce proclamation. In that split second, Lucas made a choice that would alter the course of their lives forever. He stepped closer to Zira, his heart racing, ready to sacrifice everything to protect the alien who had awakened feelings in him he never knew existed. Zira's eyes widened in horror as she felt their bond stretch to its limits. "No, Lucas," she cried, but it was too late. The agents advanced, and as the chaos erupted around them, Lucas's world began to blur, consumed by the urgency of the moment, and Zira's heart shattered as she realized the depth of what he was willing to sacrifice. Zira stood in the sterile, cold room of the government facility, her heart racing and her mind swirling with chaos. The sharp fluorescent lights above cast an unyielding glare on the faces of the officials who had just apprehended Lucas. Rage and fear mingled within her, a tempest of emotions she had never before experienced. She could sense the apprehension from the agents surrounding her, their pulse quickening as the alien woman's presence intensified. A moment of silence ensued as Zira took a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment. "Let him go," she commanded, her voice steady yet laced with a simmering fury. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." One of the officials, a tall man with a graying beard and piercing blue eyes, stepped forward. "You are a threat to national security. We cannot allow you to roam free, especially after what just happened at the cafe." Zira's empathic abilities flared to life as she focused her energy, feeling the raw emotions of those around her. She realized that her powers could create a psychic link, allowing her to project the emotions of humanity back to them. In that moment, she reached out, enveloping the room in waves of compassion and understanding. "You think I am a threat," she said, her voice softer now, yet still commanding. "I came here to learn about love, about connection. I feel your fear, your distrust, but what if I could show you what it means to care for one another?" The officials exchanged glances, their expressions shifting as Zira's influence seeped into their minds. The tall man faltered, his bravado crumbling as he felt the warmth of shared humanity wash over him. We're just protecting our people," he murmured, his tone wavering. "Is that truly protection, or is it fear?" Zira pressed, her gaze unwavering. She took a step closer, her presence magnetic. "I know you feel love for your families, your friends. Imagine if that love could extend beyond your world, beyond borders. I am not your enemy." As Zira's emotions intertwined with theirs, she realized the depth of connection she could forge. The atmosphere in the room shifted, the tension dissipating as empathy took root in the hearts of the officials. She could feel their walls crumbling, their humanity surfacing amidst their self-imposed armor. In a stunning twist of fate, Zira's mind drifted back to Lucas and their shared moments, the laughter, the unspoken understanding, the warmth of his presence. Suddenly, a realization struck her like lightning. Lucas had secretly been working with the government. The truth unfolded in her mind like a blooming flower. He believed that their connection could bridge the gap between their worlds. He had orchestrated the entire encounter, perhaps as a test of her strength and resolve. "Lucas," she whispered, feeling an ache in her chest. The memories of their time together flooded her consciousness, intertwining with the emotions she was projecting. He had risked everything for her, even if it meant placing himself in harm's way. With a newfound determination, Zira focused her energy once more, amplifying the emotions of love and compassion she had learned from Lucas. She projected these feelings into the minds of the citizens gathered outside, flooding them with warmth and understanding. The government officials, overwhelmed by the surge of emotions, began to rethink their stance. They exchanged glances filled with uncertainty, the weight of their previous decisions pressing heavily upon them. Maybe we can find a way to coexist," one of them stammered, the humanity in his eyes rekindled. The realization settled like a bomb over Zira's heart. She was not merely an alien among humans. She was a bridge, a conduit for understanding. As the officials' resolve weakened, the door swung open, and Zira rushed out to the waiting crowd, her heart pounding with hope. The citizens, bathed in the emotion she had shared, began to embrace one another, tears of joy and connection flowing freely. Zira stood at the forefront, her gaze scanning the crowd until it landed on a familiar figure. Lucas emerged, his face a mixture of relief and admiration. "Zira," he called, and she ran to him, their hands intertwining. The world around them faded as they stood united, not just as alien and human but as partners in a shared journey of discovery. "Together, we can change everything," Zira said, her voice filled with conviction. Lucas nodded, a smile breaking across his face, and in that moment, they understood that their love had the power to transcend worlds.